You're listening to the Becoming More Me podcast with me, Teresa Lear Levine. You're already enough. But if you're anything like me, you thrive when you're stretching and developing yourself, creating more of the person you feel called to be. This podcast is here to inspire and support you. Let's release the negative, reinforce the positive, and elevate our vibe together as we tap into our limitless potential to transform and grow. Hello, welcome to Becoming More Me. I'm your host, Teresa Lear Levine. Want to do a little catch up this week, see where things take us. I am really enjoying just going with the flow of my passion, my desire, my intention, my deliberate movement. And today is no exception. So I am recording this early November. And here in Maryland, we have been having some unseasonably warm, wonderful days. So this morning, not only did I start a new workout program that felt really good, but I also took a lovely outdoor walk in the midst of getting my kids out the door for school, which I know we've talked about before, always a revolving door here, but there's these little 20-minute segments kind of between each one that they're not quite up, they don't quite need me, and I can go for a walk or do something. And I love putting that time to good use. And I can usually get mile to a mile and a half in outdoors when the weather is nice. And it doesn't really feel like it takes away from my day at all. It just adds to the joy and the beauty and the enjoyment of it. And what else am I going to do at that time? It's not like I can really get deep on anything or whatever, but I can enjoy listening to an audiobook and just watching the way things change all around me throughout the walk, whether it's the sun rising, the way the leaves are different from the day before. We are in the midst of this beautiful fall splendor and color right now, but a lot of the trees have already dropped their leaves. So the views are different, it changes all the time, just like our lives. And the way that we look at things is really dependent on our own thoughts. So that's one thing I've spent a lot of time working on the last decade plus. What am I thinking? What am I putting my effort, my time, my energy into? And does it serve the higher version of me, the next version of me, the me that I am always becoming? So yeah, enjoying this amazing weather. Also just celebrated our 14th wedding anniversary, my husband, Jeff, and I. And you all know I'm a Hamilton fan. I've talked about it on this podcast. I've talked about it as I've guested on other people's podcasts. I love it. I have a whole section of my wall here in my office where I'm recording right now that is all just beautiful Hamilton art and quotes and things, so that when I look up, I'm looking at it right now. If you're watching the video, you can see it. My gaze is on the Hamilton merch. And I love it. It inspires me. The soundtrack for that just took me in immediately when it, first came out all those years ago. And I have been, much like the song, wait for it. I've been waiting for it. And between COVID rescheduling and just the advance of purchasing tickets and everything else, we've had the tickets for this for well over a year. And it just happened that, it was rescheduled just a few days after our 14th wedding anniversary. And we, gosh, what a day. It was wonderful. I mean, I spent the weekend preparing so that I could really enjoy the day because it was a Sunday. I am not a huge fan of doing big grand things on what ends up being a school night for the kids. And it's a school night for me too, because on those nights, I like to make sure I'm in bed by 9, 10 at the latest. And I'm normally up by 4:30 or 5 a.m. So I like to get 7 hours of sleep. That's something I've been consciously working on and finally been able to achieve on a regular basis. Most weeks, I get 7+ hours of sleep every night. Sometimes there's an exception of a night that I get less than, but it's always in that 6-hour range. Every now and then, a crazy night, it might be 5. But I definitely dipped a little below 7 Sunday night because the show did not start until 7 o'clock. It's a 3-hour show, as you may well know, and they use every delicious minute of it. And So I spent the weekend really trying to make sure I was prepared. The kids' lunches are packed, their outfits are ready. I have everything I can set for Monday morning so that I can just enjoy with no worries and no last minute weird stuff that has to be done when I get home. That way I can just enjoy Jeff, enjoy the evening he's planned for us, and enjoy the splendor of it all. So the kids were pretty much looking after themselves. Jaden was home, my oldest, so that was helpful. And my father-in-law came over for most of the evening until he needed to leave because he wanted to get his sleep for work the next day too. So we took off and we went for an early dinner, Little Italy in Baltimore. The show was at the Hippodrome, which is in Baltimore, for those of you who are not familiar with the area. And they've got great restaurants downtown, and we don't get down there nearly enough. We don't live far. We're less than a half an hour from Baltimore, but we don't go often. It's not always the easiest for parking. When we have the whole family, we're usually in my 12-person passenger van, so parking garages are not the friendliest. But my husband and I do love to go out there when it's just the two of us. So we went to La Tavola for dinner, and it was delicious. I had veal saltimbocca, and it was so good. And Jeff stuck to his he's pretty standard when it comes to Italian food, chicken parmesan, eggplant parmesan, that kind of thing. He had the chicken parm. It was delicious though. And they had great fresh vegetables with it, had a lovely glass of wine, had some dessert, and had a really good carpaccio salad at the beginning of the meal. That was really delicious. The whole meal was just perfect. The atmosphere was nice. The service was wonderful. And then we Ubered back to the Hippodrome from there. We actually parked right in the garage attached to the Hippodrome. And then we Ubered to dinner, Ubered back to the Hippodrome. And then we got ready for the show. And man, I knew we were going, but we're walking in and I'm thinking oh, we going up. I figured we were somewhere up above. And my husband's like, no, we're going down. I was like, okay. And come to find out, we were in the fourth row, front and center. The seats were amazing. The view was amazing, whether I was looking at the stage or whether I looked up to see the painted murals on the ceiling, because it's just such a gorgeous old theater. It was amazing. It was amazing. And yeah, I don't think I've ever sat quite that close before. So it felt amazing. And you could see the wrinkles on the actors' faces. You could see the sweat. You could see the spit fly. You could see the details on the costumes. You could see the details on the accessories, the details on the set. We were close enough that we could actually peek down and see the orchestra pit and the instruments being played and how that was all set up. Funny, they had a skeleton down there because it was right before Halloween. It was the 30th and Halloween was the next day. So it was decked out for Halloween in the orchestra pit, and just so amazing. And even though the cast is different than, what I originally saw from, Broadway when they aired it on Disney. And obviously I would have loved it if Lynn was there doing anything, but I know he's off and doing other amazing things. So it was just so grand to me how different people could fill and bring these roles to life in a new and slightly different way from what I was originally used to seeing or singing along with. And it was equally magnificent and just so very cool. When you think about all of the people at this point that have played Hamilton or Burr or Eliza. Oh, goodness gracious. It's crazy. I looked it up and my husband laughed because I was like, gosh, did you know that to this day, Hamilton's grossed $777 million? And he's like, of course, because you're looking it up, the repeating numbers. I was like, it's really, really created this legacy. So I was just thrilled to finally get to see it. And I know that I will love to see it again in the future too. But it was a magical night. So that's going on. And my oldest is applying for colleges now. So that's been a whole process to familiarize myself with. I tell you what, applying for college was not the same decades ago when I was doing it as it is now. Some things are easier, some things are harder. It's crazy. So trying to figure out, where to apply and what's going to, where it's all going to lead. A year from now, we're going to know so much more than we know right now, as we do in many areas of life. And it's just kind of fun to anticipate and watch it unfold and see who he sees himself becoming and where he sees himself growing into that next level of himself. So that's really cool. And my other kids really enjoyed Halloween. They all enjoyed Halloween. Even my oldest did trick-or-treating for the Wounded Warrior Club that he's very much a part of. And the younger ones all enjoyed getting dressed up. I was thrilled that I was able to go see the parade for the elementary school, and that I was selected as one of just 2 volunteers for my son's 3rd grade class party, because it's just like I've mentioned before, this is the first year in a lot of years, since Jaden since Jaden was in school and Jonah was born, that I haven't had a kid at home with me, or I haven't had very limited hours that they're in school. And being able to volunteer finally, after years of being like, yeah, it's just not in the cards for me. Like, I will volunteer someday, but this is not the day. Well, the day has finally come, and I can finally volunteer, and I can do more of the things that I want to at school or for my kids or their clubs or whatever. And I love that. That's kind of what and why I have been building this life the way that I have been. And I bring this up because I know that there's a lot of moms out there that are building businesses, building empires, creating legacy, doing so many things. And sometimes we feel stressed about spending that time when we have a sick kid, or when we choose to volunteer, we feel guilty, like we should be working on our business or whatever else. But ladies, this is why we chose what we do. And at least for me. And I make a very conscious effort to remind myself of that, even on the days, and Lord knows there has been, gosh, quite a few of them since mid-September for our family. I don't have a count, but I know that with the exception of my oldest, my younger 3 have all missed multiple days of school. And only a few of those have actually been the same as the others. So there's been a lot of days when I've had 1 or more kids home from school, and that requires a pivot. I mean, my kids aren't super little. They don't require all day attention, but sick kiddos require different attention and a presence that I want to be able to impart to them. And it used to be for me that when something like that would happen, you wake up and unexpectedly a kid's home from school and you have your day planned. And maybe, in the case of my business, maybe I had clients I was seeing, maybe I had podcasts I was recording, maybe I had intention to do really meaningful work that was already planned out. And I knew that I had this beautiful 3 or 4 hours to do it. And then all of a sudden, the whole energy of the day shifts. The whole availability of the day shifts. And that's where our thoughts become so important, because the way we're thinking about that determines how the day goes. So you shift from wanting to be this, boss babe, to wanting to nurture and take care of those people that mean most to you, who you do it all for anyway. And sometimes the perspective on that is so important to be conscious of, because it can be so easy. I struggle with it to this day, guys. It can be so easy to wake up and be grumpy, oh, I had this whole day planned this way, and all of a sudden it's this way, and I don't like it because I wanted it to be the way that I planned it. And I feel like stomping my feet like a 5-year-old and being upset that it's not going my way. And being able to consciously shift that, say, okay, there's nothing here that can't be rescheduled. There's nothing here that can't be done tomorrow. If there is, you'll find a way to get it done that day. And the most important thing is being present for my sick child that needs me. And you know what? There might be little pockets in the day when I get to do some of this stuff. Sick kids tend to nap, whereas my healthy kids never nap. And sometimes that means you get to rest, or sometimes it means you enjoy rest with them. And it becomes part of your own rejuvenation. And it's just, the timing isn't what you thought it would be. But there is divine timing to be enjoyed in things that we cannot plan for, we cannot foresee. And when we accept that and go with the flow of that, and we release the resistance to what's happening, whether we like it or not, we get so much, we get to love more, we get to be more, we get to experience a more pleasurable day and more connection. And that's kind of the whole like getting into the vortex and just enjoying it anyway. And feeling the way that you want to feel and not allowing yourself to feel guilt because things didn't go the way that you planned them to go, but to realize that this plan is equally wonderful. It's just different. So yeah, we've had a lot of sickness this season, and thankfully nothing terrible, but fevers and coughs and runny noses and headaches and lethargy and just people not feeling their best. So I've been doing everything I can to support my own health and well-being and try to make sure that I am feeling my best and taking care of me, because you know what? Especially, I mean, my husband travels a lot. So there's a lot of times when it's on me, whether I'm feeling good or not. So taking care of me is really, really important. And, because if I'm sick along with them, it's hard to take care of them the way that I want to. So thankfully, I've been able to stay fairly healthy and feeling good. I mean, I had that double eye infection a month ago or whatever, and I wasn't feeling good, but that also thankfully overlapped with the time that my husband was home and able to help me to get back on my feet before he left again. So we make it work one way or another. And right now I am very much anticipating and looking forward to a wonderful weekend coming up with my mom and my sister. We have this annual tradition of going to St. Michael's and staying at the Inn at Perry Cabin. And we joke that it's like, we're going to the old people's home for the weekend because we sign up for like all the activities. Bingo, they have an afternoon toast on the water. They do all sorts of classes. I think this time we're making herbal sugar scrubs and doing glass etching and doing a holiday centerpiece and some kind of painting, I think. In the past, we've painted sand dollars, we've painted wine glasses, all different things. And we do spa appointments and yoga and fitness classes. And we go to all sorts of wonderful local restaurants and eat delicious food. We go shopping, we take walks. Oh, we're doing a historic walk of St. Michael's also as one of our activities. So it's a wonderful weekend. We get to catch up, we get to talk, and it's just the three of us. So I see my mom and my sister often, usually at least monthly. Sometimes of the year it's more. And we do get to catch up, but it's usually with spouses, significant others, kids, all of that. And we all enjoy being together, but it's a different dynamic when it's just a mother and her two daughters, two sisters and their mom. It's really nice. I value it highly and I look forward to it always. So right now I am just having delicious anticipation of our wonderful weekend together. We sit in the room by the fireplace and we have a glass of wine and we eat some crackers and cheese and we catch up and we go to bed early and we wake up early and we watch sunrises and it's lovely. It's just really, really lovely. And you get to connect and have conversations in a different way when it's that kind of a grouping versus the larger group or shorter visits. We go for a long weekend. So we go for 3 nights, 4 days, and we really, really make the most of that time together. So I'm looking forward to that. And in the meantime, I am just loving the work that I'm doing. I have great clients right now that I'm working with. And if you've been wanting to explore your own emotional freedom, your own feelings of calm, clear confidence, and really get out of your own way, I do have one, maybe soon a second opening coming up for new clients. So, you guys can always hop on a breakthrough session with me. It's so fun to just spend a little time going over your life, figuring out, hey, where are these big things that if I were to shift them, if I were to energetically be able to unblock them, if I were able to reframe and feel differently about them, what would change for me? You'd be surprised. It's a heck of a lot. It's really fun work to do. It's really deep work to do. And I enjoy it as the practitioner that's helping people. And I truly believe my clients all have a lot of fun and enjoyment doing it together. And even when we're dealing with deep, dark, crazy stuff that can be difficult, we still find a way to make it enlightening, to feel better when you're done than when you started, and to really have it affect the way you show up in your life, your work, with your family, in your relationships, and have that translate into big, big moves for these amazing, ambitious, professional, awesome women that I get to work with. So if you've been feeling like, gosh, I'd love some new support, some new coaching, a new way of looking at things, a new way of working through things. I don't think that the way that I coach people is very typical. And I think that's part of what is so refreshing and helpful and cutting edge, leading edge about it is that most people are not used to being counseled, guided, and supported in the way that I do it. So I know for me, like when I'm looking for coaching, and if you listen to last week's episode, I talked about my better therapy checklist, and you can definitely get a hold on that. I'll make sure the link is in the show notes. It's 10 tips that professional women can use to get more out of the therapy and the personal development efforts that they are taking in their lives. So when I talked about that, I talked about how important it is to make sure that the person you're working with is constantly working on themselves. That's a question that I think a lot of people fail to ask when they're hiring a practitioner, a coach, a therapist, a counselor. What do you do to, stay on the cutting edge of what you do, and to not just that, but to take care of yourself and to become more of the person that you want to be in this world, resolving your own energetic blockages, overcoming your own obstacles, your own challenges, making your relationships delicious and juicy and wonderful, and feeling good about your role and your relationships in your life. What are you doing for that? And unfortunately, I think there's a lot of people out there that are helping people that aren't properly nourishing and helping themselves as much as they need to stay on the leading edge of that. And I am always working with multiple therapists, coaches, practitioners on different areas of my life that I want to enhance and make better. And all of that comes into this amazing potpourri of what I offer my own clients, because I don't like to stagnate. And I don't want my clients to ever feel stagnant or stuck either. I always want us to feel like we have options. We have new things we can try. There are doors opening, and we are expansive, amazing, wonderful creatures who are capable of healing, growing, transforming in so many beautiful and wonderful ways. Anyway, that's kind of what's been going on with me. And I am so happy to catch up with you guys and to share what's been going on. I have more to share, but I don't want to make this episode too long. But I've also been making some really great strides with my own personal health and with the transformation of the body that I set up to make happen over the summer. I was in a place where I was feeling like I wasn't thrilled with my weight, but not so much in that I weighed too much, but in that I couldn't move the way that I wanted to. I had some pounds in some areas that were a little extra that were preventing me from moving the way that I wanted to. And I was feeling a little more lethargic, a little less flexible, a little more prone to taking the easy way out than to really stepping up for myself. And in the past few months, I have been learning so much about my metabolism, the differences that I'm seeing in my getting into my mid 40s versus a few years ago, when my body adapted differently a few years ago than it does now. And it needs different things now. And it required me to take the time and the effort to just know me and to feel where I am right now, to get intuitive about my eating, about my movement, about my inner voice, about the way that I care for my body, whether it's exercise and food or lotions or different perfumes or things that make me feel really good, taking a bath versus taking a shower, all different things. Because the better I feel, the easier it seems that my body transforms. And it's amazing because it's not really about the scale. It's about the emotional scale. And when you're able to shift and feel and see yourself differently, your body starts to shift and feel differently and show up differently. And I've really noticed that in the way that my clothes fit, in my own confidence, in my sensuality, in so many different areas of my life. And I love it. And I see a difference. I've never been one to shame or hate on my body. It's such an amazing, miraculous, part of me and carrying around the energy and spirit that is me. But I love it more deeply and so much more as I, get older and I learn more and I understand how to appreciate it better. Because that's not something that I was as good at, let's say in my teens or my 20s, as I am now in my 40s. And I can just really, really see and feel the goddess in me more now than ever. And the more I see and feel it, the more it shows up on the outside and the more others see and feel it. And the transformation is just happening in such an effortless way right now. And I'm just so grateful to be heading into the holiday season, feeling really good about my body, really good about my choices, really good about my energy, and loving it. So there's a little update. And in that I've dropped about, I don't know, 5 to 7 pounds. I don't keep meticulous track of it. I've really gained a lot of muscle and it's felt so good to do it. So thank you so much for tuning in today and caring about what's going on with my life. I hope I've found ways to make it relevant to your life. And again, check out the show notes if you want to grab that Better Therapy checklist or become part of the Becoming More Me free group and community. Amazing women in there. And I'll see you again for another episode next week. Take care. Thanks so much for listening. If you loved this episode, please share it with a friend or post on social media and tag me so I can personally connect and thank you. Until next time, keep taking bold and brave action steps towards becoming more of who you want to be in this world. You are capable, you are worthy, and you are enough. Keep shining your light.